We have a wife who brought up this next question, and her husband has been experiencing erectile dysfunction. And so she comes to us with a question about navigating that and her lack of satisfaction due to that as well. So she says, I love my husband. We have been married 29 years, but I am not happy with our sex life. He has suffered with erectile dysfunction for years. Viagra doesn't help. Nothing I do excites him. I have tried everything: lingerie, toys, dancing naked, giving him oral sex. Nothing, no reaction. I'm tired of feeling like a failure and undesirable. I'm not ugly or fat either. I don't know how to get him to want me or to get hard enough for sex. Oral sex is good, but I want more, and he won't use dildos on me. He says he feels inadequate and like it's too impersonal. I'm exhausted and unhappy.
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge that there's a lot of pain that she's having, and he must be in a lot of pain also about this situation. So,
Yeah.
when partners recognize, "Oh, yeah, you're in a lot of pain with this situation just as much as I am," I can only imagine, like, speaking as a man, in our society, men place high value on their sexual functioning, especially the function of and size and shape of their penis, disproportionately so, right, as we've discussed. Because, in our society, the functioning of their penis is a symbol of their masculinity. And the reality is, we don't have a great sexual education, most of us, and we don't realize that our penis's functioning declines as we age. And even if we are taught this, somehow we believe we're going to be an exception or we're immune to that, and that declining in function as we age applies to everyone else but ourselves. So when it stops functioning, people can freak out, right? A lot of men freak out about it. I'm glad that this person that wrote this question is realizing this has very little to do with her and as much to do with him and his struggle with his own self image around this. It seems like he'd rather avoid sex or avoid anything arousing, like he wants to shut it down in his mind before it even happens, because it's a way for him to save himself from the embarrassment that his member isn't going to do the job like it used to. So for him, in his current frame of thinking, even using a dildo would be admitting he is now obsolete, and his ego just won't let him let go to use the dildo. But of course, he's not the one that wrote the question, right? We got to help the woman out, the woman that wrote the question. So I'd say to her, recognize his sense of loss and accepting his struggle will kind of help you unhook from his performance problems. We often get emotionally enmeshed in our marriages when we psychologically depend on our spouse to be a certain way so that we can be a certain way. We try to control outcomes. Like for her, I've tried dancing, I've tried lingerie, I've tried all these things, Viagra. Nothing is helping him. How can I solve his problem? And she might be thinking, if only he'd not feel bad about his ED and just love me the way I want, we'd be so much happier. Can't he just see how simple it would be if he just take one or two little steps in this direction? It's easy to think that way. It's a common way to think. But that line of thinking often evades personal responsibility in it. Coaching, I think, can be really helpful in this area for this couple because it'll help you recognize areas where you both tend to try to control each other, like she trying to control her husband, husband trying to control her, instead of trying to control themselves. For instance, as a woman, if you were the more assertive personality type, just deciding to use a dildo on yourself when you're together might be a step forward to help break the spell in your marriage. Or learn how to just drop the rope and not make sex and make his sexual performance always a power struggle. And if you can actually unhook from that, you might actually enjoy being intimate together. It might even mean accepting a loss short term that you may not be able to enjoy intercourse the way you would, but it opens you up to enjoying each other's emotional and the meaning developing sections of sexual intimacy that you may have been closed off to because you're too narrowly focused on a particular way of doing things.
Yeah. And oh man, there's so much. But I think taking a moment to pause and step back and realize she can't control him or his erectile dysfunction. It's not her fault. She can't just fix it. And I don't know if this is a terrible analogy, but this is the one I came up with in my head was if her husband left to go to work and he came home with a broken arm, would she go, oh my gosh, that broken arm is my fault. I've got to fix it? And then no matter what she does, she can't fix that broken arm. Only time in a cast is going to fix that broken arm. And in a similar sense, like it's not her fault for the erectile dysfunction. Like you said, there's a lot going on at play. And so no wonder she's exhausted if she's taking on the full responsibility of this ED. And that would
Mhm.
be exhausting to me. So I think just taking a moment to step back, analyzing those thoughts and beliefs, and realizing she can't control it and it's not necessarily her fault, which is how it sounds like she's framing it. And coaching, I think, could really help to analyze and pull back and understand maybe what thoughts and beliefs are going on here.
That's great. The very first lesson in the module in the Get Your Marriage On program is about learning how to take full responsibility for everything on your side of your marriage. And when we focus so much on our spouse's inadequacies and their failings, and in this case, their dysfunction, that hyper focus on someone else precludes us from taking full responsibility for our side of things. And it gets us wrapped up in a cycle that's unhealthy in our marriages. And this can apply to lots of other things too, not just erectile dysfunction. So, one thing that will help you if you're in this situation is to take a step back and ask yourself, where am I not taking full responsibility in this? Or am I taking too much responsibility for something that I don't have control over? Either way is not a helpful outcome for a marriage. By the way, there's no guarantee that this will happen, but individuals in their marriages who start taking full responsibility for their side of the marriage, you usually end up like dropping the rope, so to speak, stop making everything a power struggle, and they learn how to come to more peace with things. It puts pressure on the other spouse then to also step up and take full responsibility for themselves. In other words, if she were to take full responsibility for her sexual functioning in this marriage, there's a really good chance that her husband will step up on his own accord and start to really address his erectile dysfunction.
Yeah, as you're both stepping into a place of owning what you're going through and problem solving, there's other solutions out there that you might not see yet.
If you have a question, you can go to getyourmarriageon.com, click on resources and anonymous question. That comes to me, and we will do our very best to address those in upcoming podcast episodes, email newsletters, on our Instagram or Facebook groups, wherever you can find us. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe, like, or even comment below, and go see what other wonderful videos we have that will help you strengthen your marriage intimately.